Rent increases are a hot topic at the moment. My name is Andrew Wood from Wood Property, and I can explain why and how the rent increase process works. Firstly, during COVID, rents dropped somewhere around 20 to 30%. Since COVID, they've then rebounded back beyond the pre-COVID levels, and this is driven by immigration, increased demand, etc., etc. So if you're a renter and you actually signed up to a lease here and have gone along, there's going to be a huge gap basically between the current rent here and the market rent, which is in here. And that was going to be a rent increase, and some of the increases are anywhere between $100 to $150 per week, depending on the property, the time that you rented it, etc., etc. So that's why it's a big issue. That's why there's a lot of discussion about it. A couple of quick facts in relation to rent increases. You can actually only increase the rent once a year, once per year. The other thing is there is no increase during a fixed term lease. And the other thing is there is no cap or no maximum. Just as there is no limit to how much the rent can fall, there is also no increase. So let's work through an example. So let's say we use a timeline of a lease, and this is the lease start, or it was the last increase, remembering that the rent can only go up once a year. So this date here is we'll call it the review date. It may be the end of the lease, it may be 12 months since the last increase, but that's the date that the rent is going to be increased. Now, the rules require in Victoria that 60 days prior to that date, any time between there, is issued what's called a notice of rent increase. So this gets issued to the tenant to advise them that the rent is going up at this date. Now, the renter has a number of options. They can do a number of things. They can actually just pay the increase. Sometimes an owner will say to us once a notice of rent increase is issued, what was the response from the tenant? Now, the tenants actually don't need to respond at all. They can just pay the increase on the due date. The other thing that a renter may choose to do is actually discuss it. They can call the agent and have a discussion about it. Now, if the rent is set at the market level, then really there's probably not too much to discuss because that is the market rent. And if the renter chooses to move out, they're going to be paying a similar rent for a comparable property anyway. The third option that the renter has, obviously, is to move out. So if they actually rented a property at this level and at this rent, yes, the market rent's gone up, but they may choose to alter their accommodation to meet their own budget. So that is the rent increase process. These are a couple of the rules in relation to rent increases. This is how the notice of rent increase process works, and this is why it's such a hot topic at the moment. If you want to discuss the rent increases, please contact Andrew Wood at Wood Property. I'll be very happy to have a chat with you about it. I hope that helps.